Now let's talk about the subject at hand, and that is Blue Ocean 2021. I told you in the lead up to this, I was going to talk about the Zoom boom. I came up with this thing. I was just, I don't know, um, lying in bed, taking a shower. I don't know. The idea where the place where ideas come to me, I thought, yeah, we're having a Zoom boom. Now, I'm not talking about a baby boom. I'm talking about a real estate boom. And there is some definite impact as a result of this boom. Now, I didn't put these into this particular slideshow, but I do have the notes here somewhere. There we go. And now they should be on the screen. These are just my random thoughts as I've been thinking about the Zoom boom. And what's happened is people have discovered that they can work from home. The pandemic forced a lot of people to work from home, and some have realized they can work from home and they never have to go back, or so they think right now. And so this is creating an urban flight. And can you all see that? Is that big enough on the screen? I can make that bigger if you need to. Um, but we'll just leave it there for now. What is this going to benefit? You know, I was talking with my daughter a few weeks ago, and she lives in a close-in suburb here in the Atlanta area. And I told her that probably her house is getting ready to see a little spike in income. It's already a hot market. It's already a tight market. It's already difficult to find houses anywhere. But if you're in a close-in suburb, I think there's going to be another jump in prices and price pressure and valuation there, because when people are realizing, hey, I don't have to live in the city, I can move out a little bit. A lot of them don't want to go very far to begin with, but some are also figuring they can live anywhere. They can get high speed internet or high enough speed internet. And so there is a movement out there where people are moving back home to their hometown to be near mama and the cousins and the family and all of that. So there are people that are working in New York City firms that have moved back to Cleveland, Ohio, or to Columbus, Ohio, or wherever it is they came from, because now they can just Zoom to work every day with a Zoom call, connect with their coworkers and do their thing. The other thing that some people have discovered is, hey, that ski town or that beach town that I like to go to, I can just live there. I can go to Park City, Utah, get a place, get high speed internet, work in the mornings, ski in the afternoons. And then when weather warms up, maybe we'll take that and go over to, the beaches of Florida or California somewhere, work in the morning and surf in the afternoon, or whatever it is you do at the beach in the afternoon. The challenge of all of this is the sales in the city are going to go down, and the rents in the city are going to go down. And if you're thinking about moving into the city, I think give it another 4 to 6 months and you're going to see a little decrease in rents. If you're in a city like Atlanta and like many cities right now that are overbuilding apartment space, this might be a good time to start looking into rents going forward, probably 6 months from now, as they start emptying out. Another challenge here is office space. There are entire office buildings just sitting vacant because so many people are working remotely now. And you might think this is a real challenge that's going to be right up there with shopping malls, and that office space may be a thing of the past. Well, when I do a 2 year look ahead, I admit at this right now, I have a bias that's due to my age, but I've seen studies in the past that showed that working from home consistently ends up with decreased productivity. And employers that have tried the work from home thing eventually call everyone back. Now, I will admit that 2020 is a little different. The technology is continuing to improve. Zoom calls are getting better and better. And we do some calls with other platforms as well, Google Meet and Cisco WebEx. All of those are good, and I'm sure there are half a dozen or maybe a dozen other competitors out there. All of them are getting better and better, and so maybe I'll be wrong on this, but I suspect that in 2 years, 75% of the people who have left are going to be back. In part because their employers are going to demand that they come back and have a presence in the office, and in part because, well, we are social animals. And at some point, we miss the people that we're usually around, even our coworkers. I know that seems kind of weird, and it may not be that big of a thing, but I think that 75% of the people are going to come back. So this Zoom boom that we're going through right now and the things I've just described, I believe it's temporary, and I believe that there are going to be opportunities that come from this. The opportunity right now is in the boom areas that I just talked about. If you have an opportunity to buy an underpriced house in a suburb near a city, I would say do it. If you have an opportunity, if you have never considered flipping houses in um, ski towns or beach towns, maybe this is the time to try to buy something there, fix it up, and sell it to the people that are moving in. Take a look. Consider some of the other market indicators I'm going to talk about in just a minute as well. And then later this year, I think that you should take a look at investing in the challenge spaces. You know, Warren Buffett says, when people are selling, be buying. When people are buying, be selling. When people are scared, be brave. And all right, so I think that one solid investment, if you're looking to do something other than single family, is to look into office space. You've got to be prepared to not do real well for the next year or two. But I believe that people will be coming back to the offices. And as the pandemic wears off, and I think things are going to get back to normal, and people are going to be expected to be present at their place of work. And there will be a place of work again in the future. I don't think that the work from home thing is a permanent forever thing. So if you see an opportunity to buy office space, buy it. If you see an opportunity to buy an empty shopping mall, I I would not recommend that. Um, all right, and nothing that I say really rises to the level of recommendations. It's more of a suggestion. Remember, I'm not in the business of giving advice, but I'm here to give you things to think about. Now, I'm switching back over here to this presentation simply because I've got I've put together some thoughts for you about how to read the market. As we do this all throughout the year. I don't do it just at the first of the year, just like I don't do resolutions and goals just at the first of the year. I do them all throughout the year, and I monitor them constantly. Market indicators do these kinds of things. They measure trend, momentum, volatility, volume, universal things, things that are moving on a big picture, moving averages, and relative strength. That's the kinds of things that you want to look at when you're thinking about the markets. And I know right now, some of you are thinking, wait, do you really have to be all this scientific about your house flipping business? Well, it doesn't hurt, because you see, when there was a time when I was in this business and I didn't really think about these things. And then the crash of 2008 happened. And if I had been looking and paying attention, I would have seen it coming and I'd have been better prepared. So I don't want that to happen again. In our market analysis, there are some leading indicators and there are some trailing indicators. Trailing indicators are pretty easy to see, but they're not always necessarily easy to interpret and understand what they mean. Leading indicators are also easy to see, but again, we have to apply a little interpretation to kind of know where the market is going. Like I just said, I just wanted to see when the next crash was coming and be ready for it if I could figure out a way to be ready for it. So for the last now 12 years, I've been spending time each week looking at the markets and looking ahead. When I started doing the Flipping America show back in 2017, it was easy just to bring the research I was already doing into as part of the show. And it's one of the things I think that sets us apart. So here are my leading real estate indicators: pricing trends, average days on market, available inventory in months or weeks, housing starts, mortgage default and foreclosure rates, interest rates, the overall economy, and construction costs. Now, I had a meeting this morning with a gentleman who is, we're talking about doing some deals together, and he wanted to know if I had a handle on the data and if I weighted the data. And the answer is yes and yes. Some of these things are more important than others. And in the App Store, right, there's a free app called the Flipping America Property Grade. It's a little bit of a dumbed down version of an analysis that I do internally. And, we're working on coming out with a full-fledged version of it later this year that you actually have to pay for. But Wilson, I think I saw Wilson on the call. He says, I don't say enough about the Property Grade app. Really, if you know your numbers, you put in 10 data points and it gives the property a letter grade telling you how good of a deal it is, A, B, C, or don't do it. That's what the D is. But we have a higher little level of sophistication when we're truly looking at branching out into another area. And for those of you that don't know this, I still flip houses, and I have recently flipped a house in the Knoxville area, and I'm working on one in the Huntsville, Alabama area. And I just bought one in the Panhandle of Florida, and we're looking at properties all across the Southeast. And we look at these kinds of things. But out of all of these things that are on here, what you want to see is average days on market. Now, I have said for many years, don't flip a house in a town that's so small, the only people moving there are people who are moving back home to get close to mama. I am lifting that advice right now in 2021 because a lot of people are moving back home to be close to mama. And what we're seeing, even in small towns, is that inventory is tight. Properties don't stay on the market for long. And if the average days on market is less than 30, it's good. If it's less than 15, it's great. And you should pick up any deal you can where the on market are that fast. I'm not going to spend a lot of time with the sources here, but in a little while, I'm going to give you a link, and I'm going to show you a page from my website that you should probably take a photo of, or you just go to my website and start linking out from there to these sources. But we take a look at market indexes, indicative weekly data reports, indicative monthly data reports, other important indicating reports. And I have these things. I know when these reports are coming. I have them scheduled on my phone. I know when the jobless report's coming out. I know other indicating reports are coming. They're on my phone. And I know, today we're going to get this number or that number and so forth. Industrial, and which it's in my Google Calendar, industrial and manufacturing reports, and the Beige Book from the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve has an amazing amount of data, and you wonder where your taxpayer dollars are going. Well, taxpayer dollars are in part funding a lot of, I know it's a private bank, but the taxpayer dollars are paying for a lot of this data that the Federal Reserve puts together into some of these reports. When we're thinking about pricing trends, the pricing trends informs our offer strategy. Which way are prices heading? Well, most of the time, prices are heading up modestly. In the last few years, prices have been heading up dramatically, but there was a time from 2007 to 2010 or 11 that prices were heading down, and that informs our strategy. When I set a future price for a house right now, I set a future price based on its its repaired value now. And if it goes up more in a few months, fine. But I'm not counting on a higher price in a few months. That's just the way we roll. We figure an ARV now, and we don't add a percentage to it based on what we think the market's going to do. I have a pretty good idea what the market's going to do. For example, in Metro Atlanta, we project what we think is going to happen with the prices in a number of markets across the country at the end or beginning of each year. And I think we're thinking that Atlanta is going to be up 7% on the whole as a region between now and the end of 2021. And that's pretty strong. That's above inflation. And that's basically what it was last year. We think it's going to do the same again this year. And so that kind of informs what we're thinking. If we see that the prices are going up, in a lot of areas we project them to go up 2 to 3%, and some areas are going to be a little close to flat. But even the beach areas, we believe that prices are going to be up this year. Then you want to look at the average days on the market, and your real estate agent is going to be the one that's going to tell you this. If you're an agent, that's great. You have access to the data that you need. If you're not, you need to know how to connect with a good realtor and have them give you the average days on market, because this is going to impact your holding costs and your hold time. And this is hyper local. It's down to the street level. You've really got to dig in, and that's where a good realtor is going to be able to help you. Look at available inventory. What's the supply? I can tell you right now that the supply is very limited nearly everywhere, and that's what creates market heat, and the market right now is hot. Look at housing starts, new construction, and then you dig in a little further and look at their research, where they're going with new housing. Now, new houses are being built across the region and across the country, but not at a strong enough or fast enough level to keep up with demand. And this is one of the things that's keeping the prices up and the demand high. We're just not building enough new houses. And I know that if you sit down and you think about it, it would be easy to think, well, if we keep on building new houses, eventually we're going to run out of people to buy them, right? Well, we never seem to. there is a certain number of houses, I guess, that get demolished every year. And there are certain, and the population is growing. So there are a certain number of new houses that need to be built every year to accommodate our growing population. And we're not building enough. Yeah. Okay, then look at foreclosures. Now, this data is skewed for all of 2020, and it will be for at least the first half of 2021 because of the moratorium on foreclosures. But if you're watching with foreclosures in a normal market, if the rising and falling of them can inform you, as I say, don't pay a lot of attention to that right now. Foreclosure rates are at all-time lows, but that's partly because they're not being allowed. Then watch interest rates. And the interest rates have been down for several years. And there is some talk that they're going to creep up beginning about the third quarter of this year. We'll see. I see some other things that indicate they're going to stay down, but you don't have to know 8 months in advance. Just watch what's happening right now. Look at year over year trends. Interest rates affect affordability, and they affect the ability of people to buy what you're selling. So it's worth paying attention to. The overall economy is a little bit of a leading indicator for real estate. It lags behind the economy, but it doesn't necessarily follow what's going on in the economy. And are a few times in history, most notably the crash of 2008, 9, and 10, where real estate actually kind of grabbed the economy and yanked it down with it. But that doesn't usually happen. Usually real estate is a part of the overall picture. And in 2020, real estate was one of the strong bright spots in the overall economy and kind of helped to boost a lot of other things. Watch construction costs, remodeling costs. The price of lumber has dramatically. Those of you that are out there houses right now, you're nodding your head. It is amazing what you have to pay for a 4x4 post right now. And it's double what it was just seems like 18 months ago. That's due in part to some government policy decision. There were tariffs on Canadian lumber, and that meant prices went up. And is that going to continue? I don't know. It's worth kind of paying attention to because your costs are going to be a little higher right now than they have been. As long as you know your costs, you're not going to get into a situation that's going to embarrass you or cause you to lose money. But it's good to know. Construction costs don't really fluctuate that much. They follow a pretty, they're not volatile like the stock market. So it's not hard to keep up with this, and you can see it coming and you can plan for it accordingly. All right, here is a quick guide to some data. You can go to my website and just look for the leading market indicators. But what I did, I've got this set aside here. When you go to my website and you do this, this is the page that you're going to come across. This is actually a live page on my website. And all of these are links to actual places where you can go get data. And this is available on my site. It's there all the time. These links, they update themselves. This is completely free. Any of you can go there anytime you want. All right. So remember our goal here is to keep it brief, and I've been talking for a few minutes, but I'm going to switch back over here, and I also want to look over here and see what questions and comments we have. I'm going to open up the Q&A window right now if I find it, and I see. Here we go. If you have a question, stick it into the Q&A right now, and I'll take your questions. Wilson says, do you think office space per square foot price has stabilized or will go lower? I don't think it's going to do anything in the next 2 to 3 months. This is just my opinion. It's worth what you're paying for it, right? But I think that probably by the start of the second quarter, office prices in urban areas are going to have to come down because there just isn't really any demand for a lot of this space. Some of the space that's empty now is still under lease. And when those leases come up for renewal, I think that's when we're going to start seeing prices going down.